all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes like in her hypnotic dance. She pulls me with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal Night Terrors. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm here to entertain you. That's my job. Hopefully the echo's all better, folks. Just one of those weird settings that I got to manually tweak, and I guess I missed that. But so if you heard an echo on the intro, that's what it is. It's just my ongoing arm wrestling match with sound issues. So, hope you guys had a good day. Happy Thursday, almost Friday. Tomorrow is Friday. It's the end of the week. Hope you guys got great weekends planned, and I hope some of your plans include hanging out with me on the portal. That would always be wonderful. I would love to have you here, and hello to everybody that's coming in. Lots of you are coming in. Let's just see. Yeah, that's great. Good to see everybody. Thank you guys for coming in and being a part of our journey. This is the Night Terrors. If you're new to the show, the Night Terrors are the shorter format. Oh, hey, Don. Don's in the chat. Good to see you, brother. Hopefully you'll be here on Saturday and we can dig into our 2-hour show together. That will be lovely. Great to see everybody. Hi. He gave me a big orange hello, Paranormal Portal. Yes, hello, Aether Archives, Don Longbeard. What was I going to say? I was going to say something, but I forgot. But before we go much further, I hope you all have clicked that like button to feed the algorithm and send our videos into higher rotation on the suggested list. That always helps a bunch. It's not just an empty push of the button. It actually has a purpose. I said surface. Jeez, it's like I'm stroking out here. And it does help us get a little more traction on our videos. So if you do that, we'd really appreciate it. And make sure you're subscribed as well if you're not already. And looking at the analytics, our numbers are better than most. I think that most of our views are from subscribers, but the numbers keep growing. So if you're not already subscribed, please get subscribed. And if you want to help us out here on the portal, one of the best ways is to spread the word, let people know about it so that they can find us too. We're not advertising the show in any way, at least not yet. It's something that I'm actually working on. I'm working on figuring out how to put out some promos that'll help us get more traction as well. But we are absolutely thrilled that more and more people keep coming in the door, and hopefully you'll enjoy it and you'll want to stick around. So, let's see, the phone lines will be open throughout the course of our show tonight. So if you want to call in and be a part of the journey, you are absolutely welcome to. The number is 720-923-0500. I always look at it every time because I always transpose the first three numbers with the middle three numbers. It's kind of a dyslexia for me, that and names. But it's, again, 720-923-0500 is the way to get in touch with me here in the studio. And if you got something to share that is paranormal related, I'd love to hear it. And so would our listeners. So don't be shy. Come and be a part of the Paranormal Portal journey. Tonight, together, we'll sail the World Wide Web. So that's an option if you want to be a part of it. Otherwise, if you don't really want to be on the air, you don't want to be, kind of it freaks you out to talk to me during the show, you can always send emails. We love getting emails from listeners, and the email address for the show is paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. So Paranormal Portal Radio is one word, @gmail.com. So those are the ways to get in touch with us. And I guess other than that, I got a bunch of ghostly encounter stories to share with you. So Jesus. Hi, Nessie. That hi daddy thing. Oh my God. You'd think I would get used to it at some point, but I don't. I never get used to it. But other than that, all I can say is, are you ready for bed? All right, ladies and gentlemen, it makes it official. We are now underway here on the show. So I will do my best to coherently read tonight's stories and ghostly encounter stories. So hope you're ready for this. Hope I'm ready for it. Let's see. The first one tonight is coming from the state of Maine. And now this is cool because we don't see a lot of them out of Maine. Of all the states, Maine is pretty rare. But let's see what's going on in Maine. And this has to do with family and friends visits. These stories are generally pretty cool because they usually have to do with loved ones that have passed coming back to visit. And I think that's pretty awesome. Whether, however they come back, if they make their presence known to you, then I think that's pretty awesome. So, I mean, what's not to like if you got someone that loves you hanging out, looking after you a little bit? It's always a good feeling. Let's see what this one says. It says, it was the summer of 1991. I was dating a woman named Carrie, Cary, with whom I'd graduated high school. She was living in her family home that her father owned in the woods of a small town in upstate New York. The house was a huge 3-story, A-frame structure built around a massive double-sided chimney that opened into fireplaces in 2 rooms of each of the 3 floors. Although the first floor was finished, the second and third floors still had plywood flooring and unpainted sheetrock. Her parents had started building the home several years before, but about 18 months prior, her mother had fallen ill, and as it turns out, her mother was misdiagnosed by their family doctor, who treated her for about 9 months for some ailment other than the aggressive cancer that was taking over her body. By the time the doctor figured out that the volleyball-sized cyst on her shoulder was cancer, it was too late, and she was dead in about 3 months. Carrie and her mother were extremely close, and she did all that she could to help and take care of her father after her mother's death. Prior to us becoming reacquainted earlier in the year, I hadn't seen Carrie since high school, but coincidentally, I had been to her family's home and actually met her parents, who were at a party their son was having a couple of years before, and her mother was very friendly, and I spoke with her for quite some time. I mentioned to her that I had graduated with her daughter, and we talked for about several of our classmates that she was familiar with. And after the party, I never saw Carrie's mother alive again. Since only the first floor of the A-frame was finished, Carrie had set up her bedroom in the back of the house behind the fireplace and the stairway that ran through the center of the house. Carrie had an absolute love for animals. Her family had always had pets, which at the time included 2 dogs and a rabbit. The rabbit was housebroken. That's cool. I had no idea you could housebreak a rabbit. That's awesome. God, you got to be a patient person for that, I think. I don't know. I wonder how you do that. Anyway, the rabbit was housebroken, but it was also allowed to go in and out of the house at will. Yeah, I guess that probably helps. On several occasions, Carrie and I both would wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of their younger dog, Butch, barking and running back and forth on the 3rd floor playing with a ball. If you're a person who ever had a very special dog that you will never forget, if you are a person who has ever had a very special dog that you will never forget in your life, oh, Butch was that dog for me. The 3rd floor was unfinished. There were some construction materials and personal items stored there, but for the most part, it was one big open racetrack for Butch to run around in, the stairway and chimney that ran through the center of the house. Although Butch was young and energetic and loved attention, he usually relaxed most of the time waiting for someone to prompt him to play ball. One night while staying at the house, I awoke to a noise in the attached garage. The garage was closed, but far from secure, and it sounded as if an animal had gotten in there. I could hear scratching and shuffling around and really presumed it was the family's pet rabbit, but I got out of bed and looked at the clock radio. It was just past 2 a.m. I walked to the door, and after trying 2 or 3 of the 8 switches on the wall by the garage door, I turned on the light to the garage and opened the door and looked out. The doorway to the garage was positioned at the base of the stairway to the second floor. When the light came on, the noise stopped, and whatever was in the garage did not show itself. I stood there for several minutes waiting for the rabbit to hop out of its hiding place, but whatever was making the noise chose not to reveal itself. I just turned off the light with the switch in my hand had been on for the past few minutes and just closed the door. Excuse me. As I turned to return to bed, I saw a human figure at the top of the stairs. Although the house was dark, the moonlight shining in the second floor glass doorways to the balcony silhouetted the solid figure perfectly. I could tell from the profile that it was a young to middle-aged woman. And as my mind acknowledged this, the figure turned to face me. Not knowing who this was or why this person was in the house, I began fumbling through the row of light switches, never taking my eye off of this person. Although I was not looking at the switches, I had both hands on the switch plate and systematically flipping each switch because I knew one of them lit the stairway, and I tried all 8 of them, and none of them worked. But I had spent a lot of time in the house over the past several weeks and had used one of the switches to light the stairway in the past. I began flipping the switches again and again as I stared at this figure, and this figure appeared to stare back at me. The figure raised its arms slightly as if to steady itself and shifted forward as if it was about to descend the stairway towards me. Just as my panicked mind acknowledged this, the light at the hallway came on. I'd finally found the right switch, and in the blinding light of the stairway stood nothing. I stood at the bottom of the stairway for several minutes looking up the stairs as if I was in a trance. I stood that way until a whispered voice said to me, "What are you doing?" It was Carrie. Although I didn't realize it when it was happening, I'd turned on all the lights in the downstairs of the house, and the light had woken her up. I didn't know how long it actually took for me to answer her, but it seemed like a long time. I finally told her that I had heard something in the garage and had hit the wrong switch by accident. I turned off all the lights except for the stairway light and returned to bed. I lay awake the rest of the night watching and listening, but nothing else happened. The next morning, I told Carrie about what had happened to me, and although she said it was probably my mother, I don't think that she believed that that was really what it was. But I know that it was. I had met her mother, and at a distance of about 15 feet, she was unmistakable, even in the dark. For the next week, Butch played ball upstairs with someone every night. Usually between 2 and 3 o'clock, neither Carrie or I ever suggested going upstairs when we would hear him play. As is the case with many relationships between young adults, as time went by, we realized we had less in common than we originally thought, and after a few months, the relationship did end. To this day, I don't know what Carrie's mom wanted to tell me or wanted me to know, and I did my best to take care of her through what was obviously a difficult time in her life. And if that's what her mother wanted from me, I feel I did the best that I could. I did not know if she in some way had made me receptive to spirits from that point on, or if seeing a spirit for myself just made me open my eyes wider. But I've had multiple paranormal experiences since. It's a mystery to me that if I had this ability all along, why it took me 25 years to figure it out. About a year later, I got a call from Carrie. She had since moved from her parents' house and was living in a small apartment in town. An angry neighbor had taken exception to either her or her dog and had poisoned Butch, and I helped her take him to the veterinarian to be cremated. Through my experiences with spirits in my life, I've come to understand more about myself and the world than I would have without their impact. Although their message is never clear, I know they come to us for a reason. By helping those who have passed, I hope to help those who are alive to enjoy their lives to the fullest, by ridding their lives of supernatural interferences. For others, I want to help them feel the comfort that those they have loved watch over them, sometimes from beyond, sometimes right by their side. And in my mind's heaven, Butch is still running laps around the fireplace, and Carrie's mom never gets tired of throwing the ball. That's a beautiful story. That is a weird phenomenon that happens. I don't know why it happens, but it does happen that sometime after an extraordinary paranormal event, people do seem to be more able or more tuned into the spirit world. And I don't know what it is about those events, if it's something in the mind that just gets triggered from having that kind of encounter. Does that turn a switch on in us and make us receptive to seeing things? And I don't know whether it does or not. I mean, certainly many people have had, one-off experiences with a spirit, and that was it. There's many stories we've covered throughout this show that talk about, I never really thought much about the paranormal, neither believing nor disbelieving, but one time, and then, the spirit encounter happens, and that's it. And then they claim, many of them claim that that's it. That's their one experience that left them at least with an open mind. And maybe that's the purpose. Sorry, I didn't think you want to listen to me cough. But maybe that's the purpose. Maybe they appear in order to leave people with an open mind. Maybe that's the reason for the appearance. I think some of my favorite paranormal stories are those that happen to the skeptics. To me, those are the coolest because, I don't know, and I think everybody knows those people. Those people that just have to insert themselves into it. Like, no, that stuff's ridiculous. You believe in that? And they treat you like there's something wrong with you. But when those same type of people have an experience of their own, it's so powerful. It has so much impact and changes their whole paradigm. And most often those same people will desperately try to find ways to explain it away, to make it nothing much. The other kind of stories we run into all the time is, I don't believe in ghosts, but, and then they'll go into this amazing story of what happened in that but, and then they still return to but I don't believe in ghosts. How do you get there? How do you not at least acknowledge that you had the experience? I don't know. I don't pretend to know. I think that could probably be a paranormal drinking game when I say I don't know, because I say it a lot on the show, and it's just because I want to express to everybody out there that I don't have any more answers than you guys do for the most part. I just have a lot of ideas, but this is all the unknown. This is all the the nebulous, spirity stuff that goes on, and certainly goes on even more with the cryptids, with the UFOs, with the unexplained phenomena that happens. There's a lot of I don't know, but I think that that's the exciting part. The I don't knows are the exciting part, because I want to know, and I'm still searching. But I don't have the answers. I wish I did, but I've got ideas, but not answers. So very cool story. I think that's awesome. It's kind of cool to think that the mom was still playing with the dog, keeping him happy. I don't know. It didn't really say what happened to the dad, though, did it? It was just kind of the mom passed away, and then whatever. So the dad went some other direction, or was still around or something. I don't know. Let's get to the next one, and this one is from Florida, ladies and gentlemen. Family and friends visits again. It's family and friends night here on the Paranormal Portal. So, hope you brought a family or friend. we should have those nights on the show. I think I've announced that before. Like, hey, it's family and friends night. Bring a friend. Shameless self promotion. Sorry. I'm just looking at the chat. What's going on here? Got a bunch of people in here. Great. Thank you guys for coming in, everybody. And if you're not subscribed, please get subscribed. We'd love to have you be a part of the family. All right. So this is from Florida. Again, family and friends visits. Says, I was 12 years old when my grandfather passed away. I remember growing cold when I heard the news. So cold that I had to put on every sweater I owned, even though it was a hot Florida summer day. I spent the next few days in a fog, barely seeing or hearing anything until the funeral. The one bright point I recall was a floral arrangement, heart-shaped and bursting with vivid red roses. When the service ended and the guests left, I gathered up all the roses up into boxes and bags and took them home with me, intending to keep them forever in my grandfather's memory. Unfortunately, I didn't know anything about preserving flowers, and within a few days, my heaps of red roses wilted and crumbled. I really tried to save a few, pressing them between the pages of books, but it was just too late. Finally, I just had to throw them all away. Well, weeks later, I was sitting on my bed reading a book when the strangest thing happened. A few dried red rose petals fluttered out of nowhere and landed on the pages. Wow. I froze in amazement and then began to try figuring out where they could have come from. I knew I hadn't kept any flowers in this book, and even if I had, they would have fallen out when I turned the page. There was no wind in the room that could have blown around any petals, and I might still have had hiding somewhere. But finally I looked up, realizing the only place they could have come from was the painting of roses on the wall above my bed. I checked behind the painting, which had once hung in my mother's room, to see if she might have pressed flowers to the back, but I found nothing. There was no other explanation but the one I desperately wanted to believe, that my grandfather had seen the painting and used it to give me something to remember him by, something that I could hold on to. I still have those petals today, and I haven't heard from my grandfather again, and I like to think the petals symbolize that although all beautiful things eventually die, there are ways to treasure them long after their passing. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's called an apport, A-P-P-O-R-T. And those are pretty incredible. The neat thing about them is that something is manifesting out of nothing. Now, I assume that it exists somewhere, but is it a spontaneous manifestation? Or is it a trans-dimensional thing? I don't know. But it's really cool to think that something just passed into existence. I've told the story many times of this agate that I believe was apported to me from my grandfather. And it's a rock that I treasure for a long time. And it was just really neat. The way it turned up was just absolutely unexpected, but really cool. And these stories happen. Some people have told of coins just coming out of nowhere and just clinking on the desk in front of them or on a table or on the floor. Just all of a sudden there's coins coming in from somewhere. Now, I tend to believe that in most cases, I think, and again, this is just a theory, but I think that these things exist somewhere else here, but are perhaps transported in some supernatural way into our presence. I think that a lot of times keys get deported when they're taken away and then re-upported somewhere else. Many times people talk about, I know I put my keys there. I always put them there, but they're not there. And then they'll come back after hunting everywhere and boom, the keys are there. So those are deports and upports. So were they brought somewhere else and then brought back again? And I think that a lot of times those can be very significant and possibly have incredible significance to them when you consider, in the case of car keys, it might have been saving you from a horrible accident or saving you from being in a place where you would have gotten hurt or something. Now, we don't know that and we never can know that, but what if? What if that's the reason for those things happening? And when they happen, it feels like, oh, God, what a nuisance, what a pain. But when those things happen, you gotta just trust that maybe it's in your best interest that those keys weren't where they were. And then when you do find them, it's like, it's okay. Okay, you can go now. It's going to be okay. So maybe it's divine intervention. But I think ports are incredible. And to have an object like that, I think is absolutely incredible as well, because whatever the object is, it has gone through a change that we just don't understand. And I've often thought, could those things be studied? I don't know how. I don't know that there would be any difference observable in the actual item, but presumably that item didn't exist and then did. So either it was manifest in and of itself, just brought into being by some energetic shift or act of, quote unquote creation, or it was shifted from somewhere else to where these people are when it happens. And in either case, those are amazing events. So I think that those kind of events aren't given the reverence that they deserve, because I guess we don't really think about what just happened or how significant an act that is. And many times I'll say that the paranormal is the breadcrumbs teaching us about the world we live in. And that's one of those big breadcrumbs, because apparently that might be possible. It might be possible to either shift something from one place to another or spontaneously create something through an energetic act. And if that's the case, we stand to learn a lot by trying to understand the phenomena. And, it is what it is, I guess. But, I think those events are absolutely miraculous. I really do. All right, so this one's coming out of Florida, and it's apparitions, voices, and touches. It says, Key West is one of the most haunted places in America. These experiences happened in Key West, Florida on April 17th of 2009. Oh, wait, is this? Yeah, I think we can do this. Because I think it might be a researcher that wrote it, but it's not looking like it looks like it has a narrative. So, it says, when I came back from work at 6 p.m., I will usually start up the gaming console to play a quick game. It was 6:42 and I fell asleep in the chair. And when I woke up, the bathroom light was on and all the kids were gone with my wife. As I went to go turn off the light, the cupboard opened. Well, I was scared, so I decided to go with my wife. I started up the car and drove to the store. She was shopping with the kids, so I told her, and she said that there were no spirits in the house. Anyway, I hung around with the wife for a while and then it was time to go. I noticed that my car door was unlocked, and I remember that I locked the doors. Is this ghost following me? It was 9, and it was time for my kids to go to bed, and I got them in bed and walked out of the room and closed the door. Then something strange happened. 2 minutes passed, and I heard someone scream coming from the kids' room. I went and go and ask him what was wrong. She said that she saw a moving shadow in her room. Well, I was freaked out, so I let the kids stay up for 2 hours. It was 9:21 and the kids fell asleep. I was still thinking about this ghost that was following me. I wasn't that scared anymore. I was just mad and angry. And then I noticed that the gaming console was on, and I didn't turn it on. And I was on the couch lying down. There was nothing there. I was so mad that I yelled, "Stop touching my property!" And the ghost hasn't touched anything, but the ghost was angry at me, and something happened at 3 a.m. I heard the walls scratching. The light in the bathroom flickered on and off, and I felt a touch on my back when I slept. I woke up, and of course nothing was there. I still think about it every day, and I just get angry. Says if you know what the ghost wants from me. Who knows? Who knows what a ghost could want? It might just want acknowledgement. It might want to tell its story somehow. It might want I don't know. It's like asking what the guy getting on the bus wants. Who the hell knows? And I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to be cynical, but sometimes these, with a very little bit of narrative, people are looking for decisive meaning, and that might be just absolutely impossible. It definitely wants you to know it's there. It wants you to be aware of the presence, and that's a good place to start, I guess. But decent story. It's definitely some freaky stuff. Let's go to the next one. I'm going to get a drink here. Aussie Tigers, my second good day, everyone. Hey, Aussie, good to see you. Thanks for coming in. And thanks, everybody, for coming in. Good to see you guys. The next story is coming from New York. And this is, again, Apparitions, Voices, and Touches. I don't really know when this began, but my hubby and I bought a house. It was a 2-story house, and it's absolutely beautiful. Well, we just had a baby who is now about a month old. And we put her room, or as you would call it, the nursery, on the second floor next to our room. Good choice. Good choice. I always wonder about people that have these newborns, and they put the newborn's room like on the other side of the house sometimes from where they are. And it's like, my God, when a baby's brand new, especially, but even when they're very young, I don't know, I couldn't stand having the child's room really far away. That would just freak me out. But it says, put the baby's nursery next to our room. One night I heard my baby crying, and my husband had to go to work early in the morning, so I got up and took care of the baby. When I walked in, I picked my baby up and tried to give her some milk, and she was not crying to be fed, so I checked her diaper, which was not the problem either. So I thought, well, she just had a bad dream. I sat down in the rocking chair. It's in the middle of the room. Don't ask why. With the baby is in my arms and started rocking back and forth. And all of a sudden, my baby is giggling. I couldn't understand why. It says I could understand why. I looked up, and there was a little girl standing in front of me. I didn't have another kid. I only had one. Well, I got really nervous, and then she disappeared. So with Ashlyn, the name of my baby, I went to go find her. Nowhere. She was nowhere. I got really scared. It was going on 6:30, and I put my baby back to bed. In the afternoon, I put Ashlyn back up for a nap. An hour had passed, and I heard my baby crying in the baby monitor, so I ran upstairs. I was talking to my husband on the cell, but hung up, and I ran up to the baby's room to find Ashlyn was giggling again. I walked in there, and there was the little girl. She turned to me and said, "Cute baby." I was so scared I never told my husband about it because it stopped for a couple of weeks. Any idea on what she was? Because like a day later, I was walking in the hall to go to the bathroom and heard crying, and I looked to my right, and she was crying. I couldn't understand why. Can anyone help me? Well, I don't know. I think if it is indeed a little girl, then she probably is not real happy about being alone or in the situation she's in. Again, it's that little kid spirit though. That's always throws me. I don't very easily trust that these are little girls. And if you've watched the show for a while, you know my reasoning behind it. But essentially, in a nutshell, it's every story that deals with something really dark and negative starts with a little girl, a little kid, something to disarm the people and open themselves up. And then whatever it was, this little girl becomes something really dark and horrible. And it's not every time, but it's enough times that at least you got to be cautious. If you see a little kid spirit in your house, be very cautious because you might not be dealing with a little kid spirit. You might be dealing with something entirely different and entirely horrible and malevolent and wanting to cause you pain and problems. So always be careful. It's just, for me, it's a personal red flag. It's like, are you sure? Are you sure that's a little girl? And it might be. I'm not saying, I've never tried to say that little kid spirits don't exist. But it just seems to me that if there's anything good, right, and just in the universe, if there is anything beautiful in this universe, then if there is a divine spirit at the top of this, then shouldn't something come and pick up these little spirits when they fall? Shouldn't something be there waiting to bring them home? To me, that just seems, if it is happening that these kids are somehow stranded, then it just breaks my heart. It's just horrible. And it really throws a lot of things into question for me personally on a very spiritual level. It's like, why is that allowed to happen? Why aren't they brought home? Why wasn't something waiting for them, to take them home? And to me, that seems wrong. So that's why I do believe in that divine spirit. And I do believe that there's something bigger than us watching over all of this. And call it what you will, whatever your paradigm says you should call it. But I do believe that that's there. But I still don't understand how this can happen. How can it happen that a little child is left to wander? And it was something holding it from crossing over. Is there something dark that wouldn't let it pass? And maybe that's possible. But even then, shouldn't something light have been there to bring it home anyway? I don't know. Just my question marks. These are all things that, that I carry and wonder about. So this one's coming from Texas. I think that goes for all ghosts as a precaution. Yeah, you're right, Farm. It does. You're absolutely right. I'm just looking to make sure I haven't missed anything else. I'm trying to get better about watching the chat, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't try not to watch it. It's just I've got to read the stories and make sure everything's the way it should be. I oftentimes don't look. So as you see, if you're in the chat room and you want my attention, do the @Paranormal Portal, because at least it'll frame it in orange and I'm more likely to see it. You can try capital letters. Sometimes I see those, sometimes I don't, but well, there you have it. Just looking at the chat as usual. Don't watch chat, Brent. Yeah, I'm trying not to. But I think it's also good to acknowledge you guys, because you guys are a part of the show. You're a part of what I'm doing. So if there's questions, if there's comments, I definitely don't want to look away. No kidding. All right, let me continue, because obviously we got several different pages going on in chat as usual. Might as well be reading recipes in here sometimes. All right, state of Texas, ghost hunting. I've always felt things like ghosts and such are really kind of creep me out. And all my life, I've been told that there was nothing in our house until recently. My mom finally admitted that there might be a ghost, but it won't hurt me, which is true. It hasn't, but it still doesn't like me. When my mom finally admitted I was right, I allowed myself to find more things paranormal. I told a friend about my gift, and he decided to test me on it. And around Halloween, he took me to a graveyard near town. I know, clicks about the Halloween thing. But anyway, when there, I kept feeling drawn to these graves. When I went near them, they were all in this last year. All the graves were, okay. Kind of creepy all on its own, but then I got this tingly feeling when I went past this one spot. I felt hostility coming in waves at me. I told my buddy that I wanted to leave, that I was getting freaked, and finally he agreed. After trying to talk to it, and me running because of the feeling was getting worse. Sorry, the minion. Then he took me to another grave site, and in this one I found a grave from a few months before. Silly, but I prayed over the grave, almost like giving them their last rites. When I felt something drawing me to another grave, but at the same time, I was getting that bad vibe. I ignored it and went to a grave marker. I never had touched one, but this time I did. And shockwaves ran through my arm. I jerked my hand off and looked straight ahead, and there was a dark figure hovering over a grave. Instantly, I knew it was a demon. I started praying and told my friend to run to the car. Luckily, he listened to me, and we got away fine, but I still didn't want to go back. The next night, he came to my house hyped up and made me listen to a recording he'd made on his phone. The goofball had gone out there saying, Who's out there? Who are you? Like in a dumb, scary movie. The creepy part is, he got a reply. I can't remember the name anymore, but I haven't been to the graveyard since. I know this probably sounds fake, but it really did happen. And we were incredibly lucky. Now I'm finding that since I won't track down the paranormal, it's tracking down me. I don't know what to do, and I need help. This isn't my only experience, but the others I can't tell because the others involved need to remain hidden for their own good. Geez, I sound like some mysterious chick you see on the mystery movies. Ugh. So I'll stop. I hope you all can help me out. Yeah, it's the point is that those with psychic gifts are beacons. They are, you will be found. If you're sensitive, I think these things will seek you out. And again, unfinished business or any other number of reasons, but the spirits don't want to be ignored. I suppose they get ignored all the time. So I got a few more stories pulled up here. And next one is coming from Alabama. It was the spring of 2001, and quite frankly, I was in a job that I hated at a local community college. My immediate supervisor was a red-faced, shrewish man who watched my every move and fabricated myths about my conduct out of sheer spite. At the time, I could not know that within 5 years the place would crumble and fall amid charges of corruption, nepotism, graft, and vice. No wonder I didn't fit in. I was an honest teacher amid vipers. As I pulled into the parking lot on that fateful day, I saw a murder of crows poised in the distance around a puddle. Well, I paid them no mind as I entered the building, but something told me to bypass the main office and mailroom that day and just go straight to my cubicle before teaching. But I did anyway. Stupid woman. I'd been pinked. They call it a reduction in force due to budget cuts, but I knew better. The jackanape in the dean's office was all too happy to invoke the no contest clause in my contract and send me on my way. After all, they could hire a lot more part-timers for the price of me, a full-time employee. Somehow I managed not to blubber like an idiot throughout the day. At least they, like lily-livered chickens, had waited until a Friday. I guess the reality of unemployment had not set in. Finally, it was time to go to my vehicle. The murder was still outside. It had, however, relocated to my Suburban. The birds perched, cawed, and menaced, and quite honestly, it was some time before I could shoo them away from my vehicle. And the odd thing was, here was my car, surrounded by a sea of other cars in a large college parking lot, and it was the only one covered in bluish-black gabby birds. When they finally left, there wasn't a drop of bird feces on it. I don't know why they were there. It wasn't like I had a carry-on covered car. Still, the episode gave me the heebie-jeebies, and there was a message in the visit. I knew it, and I despised them. I went home and dealt with a gamut of emotions that goes with losing one's job and a going away party of crows, and that night I saw what I thought was a shadow of a man in the corner of my room. But I blew it off as my mind playing tricks on me, since I was emotionally overwrought. The long and short of it is, weeks passed, I became depressed, went through the emotions of surviving my job until it ended, and went home. Summer term came, and while at home I began planning for a new business. Still, tensions ran high. There were financial worries and migraines, lying in bed most of the day. I found an old storefront in a historical district that began to make a career change altogether. The building had once been a dance studio and an auto parts store, a diner. It was old, but it had a good vibe. I liked the feel of it. The dilapidated pink abutting the structure, though, was another story. The dilapidated why did I say pink? Where the hell was that? The dilapidated building abutting the structure, there was another story. It had been a speakeasy, a furniture store, and a funeral home. Within a week of moving into my building, as luck would have it, the building next door was condemned. Local historians, trying to prevent its demolition, went into the basement one day and pulled out some unique caskets from the late 1800s. They were wooden with a peculiar angular wooden caskets with little windows slash doors where the faces of the deceased would be so that people could look at them. In my building and the one next door, I never felt a particular entity, but sometimes I felt a heaviness, and occasionally objects would fall from the walls. All the while I was working very hard, experiencing headaches, and experiencing strange sleep patterns. At some point during this period, I began to start seeing the shadow person, people, things. At first, it was like a head and torso that would appear in the corners, or that would seem to hop down the wall to my bedroom. And at first, I thought they were just a result of too much migraine medicine, but they would appear on hazy afternoons, sans naps in the middle of the night. Seeing this would always cause me concern, but I always sensed that he was watching me. One night, though, after a shadow man made a hop down the wall, I decided to really concentrate on it, watch it, and that's when it began to do a lot of really odd things. It backed into a wall and broke into spider-like pieces and began crawling around the perimeter of the room. It didn't crawl arm over arm like a human would prowl, but like one of those rubber toys when you slap it against the wall and it rolls down in a vertical fashion. Only these did so in a horizontal fashion. When these shadowy beings appeared, they were mostly silent. Occasionally, there was a sound like air leaking from a tire. Oftentimes, my chest felt tight, like I just couldn't speak. I don't know if they followed me from the shop or if they were psychological manifestations due to my stress or if they were time travelers, as some people suspect. Time travelers? Oh, I never heard that. I've since moved from the shop and the home where these entities appeared, and they don't seem to have followed me in the 4 years that I've been here. But there is this sinking feeling whenever I see crows or a darkened room. I half expect them to make an appearance. I don't know. That's a strange one. It sometimes does feel like that in life, like you got a dark shadow over you. And I don't know if it's like the person had said, is it a psychological manifestation of just your issues? And you are creating some kind of tulpa out of your problems inadvertently. And that really may very well be. Again, Don had found these really good article, or actually it was from a Art Bell show, and it might have been Coast to Coast, but it might have been Midnight in the Desert. But he was interviewing this shaman guy, and I know we've shared this on the show before, but just bear with me because I think it's important to always mention this. You know, everybody thinks shadow people bad, shadow people bad, shadow people bad. A lot of times, truly, people don't have problems with shadow people. They'll see them, and they'll notice that they're there, but most of the time they just seem kind of these benign presences. But the shaman was talking about these shadow people and how they've gotten a real bad rap, but in his training as a shaman, he was taught that these are actually very benevolent things because they do feed on negative energy, but their presence is a cleansing presence. They draw out the negative energy. They remove it. They feast on it. And it helps us to cleanse that energy. And I think that's awesome. I love that. I love that explanation. It was a great interview. I wish I could tell you what name the interview had or how you could find it for yourself, but I believe it was on a pretty old episode that Don and I were listening to one time, prepping for shows when the studio was upstairs, and it was just really cool. I was like, wow, and he gave names for it, and I wrote the names down of these beings, and I thought it was really interesting, but it was a whole new take. I'd always heard shadow people bad, and maybe there truly are really nefarious, malevolent ones, but some of them might be there to help you out, to pull some of the negativity out of your life and help you cleanse that. And so if that's the case, then shadow people, not bad. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is California. God, we're already at 10 minutes till. How'd we get here? How'd this happen? Time flies. I just want to send out our thoughts and hopes for Mr. Naysay, who is probably well into his journey now. I haven't heard any updates, so I don't know how it's going, but our hearts are sure with him and hope his journey in his chair is going good and that he's staying safe and will have a successful journey at the end of it. So when you get the time and you think about it, just send him some energy, send him some love because he's out there doing something that he really believes in, and I want us to support him as much as we can. If you're not sure what he's doing, then you can check out, what was it, last Sunday's episode. He called in to explain what he's been up to, but he's essentially riding in his motorized wheelchair. If you weren't familiar, he is confined to a wheelchair and is mostly blind, but he's riding for Gulf War illness awareness. And he's heading from his home up near North Dakota down to the state capital of Minnesota. So you gotta give it up to the guy. He's just a machine. So let's read this story. This one's a little bit longer, but this one's coming from California, and it has to do with orbs, lights, and mists. All right, so when I was 5, my parents and I took a trip to Yosemite with some family acquaintances. They had a child my age, Sarah, and Sarah, to put it in the kindest of terms, was really mischievous. She liked to lock people out of their own rooms and then trash everything, and she liked slamming other kids' fingers in doors. Oh, God. She liked pretending she saw something scary and work everyone into a fit, and then laugh at them when she saw how frightened they'd become. We really didn't get along well, and to this day, maintain civil yet strained relationships with each other. But at that age, my parents had not yet realized when I said I disliked her, that I meant it, and said that the both of us and her older brother should stay in a tent together. Oh, and they said that they should stay in a tent, and her older brother should stay in a tent together during the trip. Anyway, one night we were sleeping, and Sarah shook me awake. "What?" I yelled at her. It was in the middle of the night, and I was a tired little kid. And I didn't want to be bothered by her of all people. She pointed outside. "Lights. There are lights outside." She looked genuinely afraid for once, but I'd by then still learned to doubt everything she said. "So it's a flashlight. Go away. I bet you're lying again." Well, she grew increasingly agitated. "No, go look." Sarah forcefully yanked me out of bed and shoved me outside of the tent, where I saw, to my surprise, she wasn't lying. In a field a bit away from the tent, maybe 50 feet, there were lots of lights floating above the grass and in all colors of the rainbow. Bright orange, pink, blue, red, green, everything. Some were orb-shaped and some were bar-shaped, and they all kept moving in odd patterns. Figure eights, jagged, lightning paths. Like some even appeared to spin in the air at varying speeds. They were moving anywhere from 10 to less than a foot above the ground. There wasn't much interaction between them. They never hit each other, though occasionally they would spiral around each other. I thought they were quite pretty and calming to watch. I wanted to go play with them. I ran to my parents' tent and pulled them outside so they could take a look across the field with the pretty lights, and they could only see a few lights, whereas I could see many of them. They told me they were probably just teenagers playing with glow sticks. Now that I'm older, I've noted the flaws in my parents' explanation. In my experience, a regular glow stick wouldn't have turned bright enough to see from that far away, nor were they thick enough or the right shape to match the size of these lights. Neither could a human move so quickly or as smoothly as I'd seen the lights. I recently met Sarah again and asked her if she remembered the trip and the lights, and what she told me was very strange. She said she'd been soundly asleep and dreaming, but felt as if she was getting warmer and warmer, or as if a light were getting increasingly bright around her face. When she woke up through the thin material of the tent, she could see a light floating right next to her head, outside as if wanting her to notice. When she got up to look, it zoomed away into the field, which was when she woke me up. Sometimes I get the feeling that they were children's spirits, They didn't seem at all threatening, like they were just having fun with each other. I still wondered what I could have seen if I'd gone over to the field that day. Would they have disappeared? Would they have turned into the children that I thought maybe they were, or something more sinister? Yeah, that's the weird part. That's the dice roll of the paranormal right there, ladies and gentlemen, because so you see the lights, and the forest lights are real common. I can't say common as if they're an everyday thing, but in some areas they nearly are. There's places that have these legends of the ghost lights, and they can be these strange orb-like, emanations going through forest and wilderness, above trees, below them, around them, and all these really wild, intelligent patterns. So if you're observing that at a distance, yeah, it's beautiful, it's intriguing, it's curious, but what happens if you go there? Is it, what is the lights? What are they? Are they a manifestation of a spiritual energy? Are they a manifestation of something else? Could they be extraterrestrial? We just don't know. And what is the intelligence that's controlling them? Is it a playful thing, or is it something that maybe is more sinister? There's lots of legend and lore of the lights, the fairy lights, luring children into the forest. And I don't know. Now, it requires you to have a belief that there could be something like fairies around. But again, I would just say these legends have been around for centuries that we're aware of. And I really believe that all legends and lore is built on something. It's built on some kind of truth. And what that is, I don't know. I can't possibly know. But do you trust it? Do you go and look closer? I don't know. I think she did the right thing in not going closer, because you just don't know. You just don't know, and it could have been the last time she was seen. Now, it could have been amazing. It could have been absolutely magical if she'd gone over there. But, who knows? I imagine if the lights were that intelligent, they could have stuck around the camp, but they chose not to. They chose to go a distance away, and I don't know. I don't know what that means, but again, with the I don't knows, that'll always come up in the paranormal. If anybody's being honest, we just don't know. Again, there are those that would claim they have the answers. They know because they are experts. But there are no experts in the paranormal. There's nothing, no possibility to be an expert. You can be an expert researcher, maybe, that you spend a lot of time researching. You can be an expert folklorist. You can be an expert in a type of a pursuit. Maybe you know all there is to know, all that is known or believed to be known about a subject, and you can be an expert on that, but not the subject itself. If it's paranormal, it's just beyond our ability to study at current times anyway. All right, oh shoot, I didn't want to do that. Well, I did it anyway. I actually closed the entire browser window, which was not what I was going for. I was just trying to close the tab. But that's how I roll here in the Paranormal Portal. But I will tell you that we are all out of time anyway, and I don't have anything more for you tonight. I will be back tomorrow night, though, for 2 hours of fun, and I hope you'll join me. If you're not already subscribed, again, please get subscribed. We love having new subscribers all the time. The more the merrier. If you want to spread the word, that would be very appreciated. Check out the description below, and you can find the links to our Teespring site for portal gear, there's not hats, but there's t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and even masks. Don and I put together a few ideas for masks. Don's done a great job running the store, so go over there and check it out. It goes a long way to help us and support us and keep the show going. There's always super chats. Now, I'm toying with the idea of enabling memberships here on the YouTube site. I don't know if that's something you guys would welcome, or do you think it would just be, I don't know. I'm throwing the idea around in my head, like, do I do that or not? I don't ever want the show to be just about money, but it is a pursuit. I do want it to grow, and I do want it to sustain, our families. So And to do that, we've got to grow. So what do you guys think about the whole membership thing? Farm says, why not? Well, that's true. It could be good. It might not be. Do it. Oh, thanks, Farm. Farm's weighing in twice. I thought it was two people. Yeah, of course it is a labor of love though. Maybe I'll call in tomorrow. Yeah, please do, Squash Knocker. I'd love to hear from you. Hear what you got to say. I got all kinds of time for weird stories. So, yeah. Well, enable it so you can pay the bills. Thanks, Aussie. It certainly would help a bunch, but at the same time, I don't want to be in your face about this whole business end of things. But it is, something that I'm hoping will grow and expand and make life easier. So we'll see if that actually happens. But I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, just seeing what you guys think. Not the general from the commercial. Oh, the general. How you doing, General? That's a new name. I've not met you before, but thank you so much for coming in. I hope you enjoyed the show, and please get subscribed if you're not already. He's not the general from the commercials, though. So, Cha-Cha says yes. Okay. Anything else, Brent? Get a Patreon. I would, but I got to tell you guys that Patreon's been around for a long time, and I'm a little hesitant because they're also involved in, a lot of the thought control stuff that's going on in our World Wide Web, and I'm not so sure I want to support that, but it's a possibility, I guess. We may do it. Do it, says Justin. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. All right, well, I'm just looking for anything. We hope so too, Brent. Oh, thank you, Cashew. I appreciate that. Yeah, it is. It's unfortunate that a lot of these platforms online with these bigger media companies, and YouTube's been okay for us. We're not a real controversial channel, but it does bother me that there's such a thought control thing going on online, and it's not because I'm leaning one way or the other. It's because I think that we have to have the dialogue. We've got to be able to have the dialogue, and it's like a dying art nowadays to discuss differing opinions. It's like people are forgetting how to do that, and I don't think it serves anyone by just shutting off opinions. And I'm not either left or right, just for the record. I'm pretty much, in many ways, I'm on both sides of the issues. I tend to be more moderate, but I can appreciate that. There is definitely, I don't know, there's definitely a wave of control being expressed upon all of us. And I don't think we ever learn by removing the ability to have the discussions. So, everybody's got differing opinions. We don't always agree, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be, you don't think like me, so you need to be quiet. That's just never going to be good for us. And that's as political as I ever want to get on the show. This is not a political show, and I don't want to ever make that the case for our audience. But just some things I'm thinking about. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts for the night. I'll be back tomorrow night, and I hope you'll join me then. Spread the word, let people know, expand the audience of the portal. Help us out. It means a great deal, and it helps us to do more things with the show when we have more support. You guys have been amazing. Our audience is, by and large, it's not a big audience for YouTube. It's very small. But you guys have been amazing in supporting and helping us to achieve a lot of goals that we couldn't have gone anywhere near without you guys. So thank you all so much for your support, for your kindness, for your generosity, and for your love. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. All right, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow night. See you then.